And that's why you're being overlooked, because folks don't understand the substance that you have in you. They're looking at it, the small beginning right now. They're looking at, oh, yeah, that's just such and such. They've been dismissive, and they don't understand where God is taking you. Listen, they want to oversimplify what you've gone through. They want to say, yeah, you made it from the pit to the palace. But to say that of Joseph is to be dismissive of the process, because he did not go from the pit to the palace. He went from the pit into slavery, into Potiphar's house, on the run, into jail, mistreated. But they want to oversimplify your process. Listen, they don't understand that everything that you went through, good, bad, and indifferent, was because God was taking you somewhere. So when you go through things, all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord, to those that are the called according to his purpose. Everything you've gone through is because God knows exactly where you're headed. If the enemy can stop your future, if he can paralyze you with fear, if he can keep you from starting a thing, listen, you can't get past starting. You can't get past starting. You don't start. You don't start. Nothing is ever completed. And so what God is saying is, if I can just get you to start. And so God will send little nudges your way. Sometimes God will bring opposition just to move you out of the place. Yeah. God had fired me from a good job one time, because I would have never left it. God has to take some people to totally, completely break your heart, because you would have never left them. Oh, God. Can we just take a moment, free them? It wasn't even about them. He allowed them to do that because he saw a greater purpose, and it didn't have them. They wasn't written in the purpose, and God said, I got to let them break your heart, because you ain't going to never leave them. God allowed him to have them because he knew where you were going. He knew where you were going. Isn't it great that God loved me enough to be able to break my heart knowing that he can repair it? Yeah. Oh, I don't mean to talk like this, but Mary and Martha, they said, Jesus, had you been here, my brother Lazarus would not have died. Jesus cried because he hated to see his friend die, but he knew that he could resurrect him. So what does the difference make if I let something die if I know I can resurrect something? They said, if you hadn't been here, my brother Lazarus would not have died. He said, oh man, I hate that you gotta have this temporary heartbreak. I'm grieved because I don't even want to make you feel this way. But I can come to Lazarus and say, Lazarus, come forth. What are some dead things that you forgot about? Some dreams, some visions, some ideas that God has given you, and people shot down your confidence, and they told you that ain't gonna happen. That ain't realistic. Why would you do that? Why would you leave this perfectly good job? You got a degree in this, but why would you do that? People will shoot down those ideas, but when you know it's God, when God has told you to do something, you better do it. Can I testify to you for a moment? I never forget. Lord blessed me to be an entrepreneur at a very young age. I come from a very entrepreneurial family. And I've told you some of the struggles that my parents had. I told you some of the things they had. And the reason why I live by faith so much is because my parents have literally systematically taught me this my entire life. I never forget that at the around age of 5, we were homeless. Here it was during Reaganomics. The economy had turned for the worse. Inflation, interest rates are high. Most of us, we get a house now, if it's above 5%, we mad. Interest rates were 13% then. Oh, Lord. And so here it is, my father with a law degree, my mother with a business degree. Neither one of them could find employment. We're literally homeless, living into just a little trailer in my uncle's front yard. We didn't even have running water. And as we sat there, my parents would every week come home with the little bit of money they got from unemployment, and they would write checks for their tithes. And I never forget, at the age of 5, 6 years old, my parents were teaching me this principle. My dad said, number one, he said, never be too prideful to do whatever you got to do to feed your family. And so my dad went and worked 18-hour days loading trucks with a law degree. He never thought it was beneath him, because he said, I'm giving an honest living, I'm feeding my family. And he said, number two, you always pay your tithes and offering. And they begin to write checks. My parents begin to write checks. My mom began to write checks, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, and begin to put it in her Bible. Now, you talking about unemployed, homeless, living in a trailer, sitting there and don't know what you got to do, and they're still thinking about God, and this is going to be the greatest testimony you've ever written. Over the process of time, God made them multimillionaires, and every check she had written, God allowed her to pay that and to give it to the house of the Lord. And so they taught me this business acumen. So at the age of 23, I owned my own real estate firm. I was making well into the six figures. I was doing well. Just got married, was doing great. We were comfortable. I was good. I believe this one right here was on the way because we were having a good time. And so, like, Dad, don't talk like that. And I never forget, at the height of all of that, God said, I want you to stop working and go into full-time ministry. And I'm like, that's the devil. That's not God. That ain't God talking to me. And that's not right. And so, you know, I wasn't necessarily afraid of that. I was afraid to tell my wife that, you know. Right. You know, because, you know, and at them times, you know, I was making money. I could come home and be like, hey girl, we flying out. You know, don't pack nothing. We'll get there. Y'all was the hero then. And then to go back and tell her that, you know, this, you ain't gonna be in the shop like that no more. and God, so my savings and everything, because I've always tried to be one that takes care of finances and prepares ahead. So I had some savings and stuff. And so all that stuff began to dwindle. And I'm like, I'm still serving God. Folks are getting saved. Reggie will tell you, we doing campus ministry, all kind of stuff. You know, the Lord was blessing people getting saved. It was great revival, but my bank account was going lower and lower. I'm like, God, this is great. You know what you're doing with the people, but what you're doing at my house ain't that good. And so I never forget, I'm sitting there in line with my daughter, and I'm holding her hands, and I'm getting gas. And I lied to you not. I'm sitting there and I'm like, God, I only got enough money to get some gas into Friday. God, what are you doing? I know how to get money. I'm a financial guru, God. I know how to make money. I'm a hustler at heart. But God, you won't let me do that. You have me doing ministry, and I believe that you'll take care of me. But God, this ain't working. And I begin to sit there, and as I begin to get ready to pay my gas, my daughter is asking me for a blueberry muffin. And I begin, as a grown man, to break down and cry. Because as I hold my daughter's hand, I said, what kind of father am I? I can't even get my daughter a blueberry muffin. And as I'm sitting there crying, God says, do you trust me? I said, God, I trust you. He said, no, but do you trust me? And I'm crying, I'm saying, God, I trust you. 2 days later, I had someone deposit $70,000 in my bank account. And God said, do you trust me? The principle that I learned that day is God can change my situation like that. That it really doesn't matter what I'm going through if I just trust God. If I just believe. Do you think that God for one moment wants you to suffer? Do you think for one moment God wants you to live beneath your privileges? Do you for one moment believe that God does not want you to be successful? No, that's not so. But sometimes God will take you a long way around just to get you to the promised land. And so I don't want to talk to you today. I want you to understand that I want you to have victory in leadership. Listen, I could give you a whole bunch of theoretical stuff. I could have given you some Maxwell. I could have given you some Stephen A. Covey. You know, you might still want to write these some good books and don't know how. And so, you know, John Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, Stephen A. Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. You might want to get from good to bad. You might want to get from good to great, rather. You might want to get the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. These are all books because I'm telling you, your daily devotion will determine your destiny. But instead of doing that, I really want you to have leadership victory in leadership. because if you don't get past some of the hurdles in yourself, you can't really lead anybody the way that you need to do. But because what happens is, what I found is we have a lot of leaders who are hurting a lot of people. And they're hurting a lot of people because they're not good on the inside.
Yeah.